Hey guys, Susan Soares here, talking to you this week a little bit about grief. I know it's not the most fun subject to talk about, but I'm hoping by the end of this you can see that there are positives that come out of walking through a grief cycle. So I think the logical place to start is, what is grief? Grief can be anything. Like, most people very much associate grief with losing a loved one. Absolutely, no question about it. But I think people forget that other things cause grief in our life. Other things like losing a job, going through a divorce, losing a home, maybe losing a business that you worked hard to start. All of those things that you are really invested in, heart and soul invested in, if those go away, those are going to cause grief, and you're going to go through the grief cycle. And a lot of people kind of discount that as, oh, I should be over it. I know a lot of people wouldn't say that to a person who is grieving the death of a loved one. But when it's something else that isn't that, people tend to forget that that's grief. And so I just want to remind everybody, grief can look like a lot of different things that way. My first piece of advice when it comes to grief, and I'm preaching this a lot lately, is be accepting of whatever you're feeling in that moment. Don't judge it. Just go with whatever you're feeling. Doesn't mean you have to live there. Like, if you're feeling really sad, don't live there. Like, but check in with it and say, okay, sadness, I see you. I love you for who you are, but I don't need you in this moment. I'm good. Um, a lot of times feelings will kind of throw tantrums if you don't pay attention to them. And so most people's natural reaction is to shove everything down. I don't want to feel those negative emotions. They're not useful for me. I just want to feel happy emotions. So work on being accepting of whatever feeling you're feeling. And honestly, it helps you push through negative feelings faster. The more you resist something, the more it's going to push back at it. And so it stays around longer. So there's a saying that says, where focus goes, energy flows. The more you're focused on the negative, the more you've got negative energy feeding into that. But once you recognize it and move on from it, it gives it permission and it releases it from you a little bit. The other thing you need to work on being accepting of is your new path in life. Like, a lot of times we had dreams in our head of what our life was going to look like. And when we're grieving something that we were heart and soul invested in, whether it was a relationship or a business, whatever it is, we had a dream that looked like it was going this way. All of a sudden, when we lose that, it takes a hard left turn and goes that way. We weren't looking left. We were looking right. And so we have to give our eyes time to adjust and our brain time to adjust to looking left and seeing the new path. Again, the more you resist something, the harder it's going to be to work through. So if you can just accept your new path and work on building new dreams and new hopes that go along with that left-hand turn, then you can move towards something new and beautiful. Any hard time is an opportunity to grow, plain and simple. I don't care what it is in life, and grief is probably one of the hardest things in life. You can definitely grow from grief. You can find the positives. You can find your true you, but you have to make a choice. You have to choose to grow. You can't just say, oh, okay, whatever. You have to be purposeful in your choice and say, I choose to take this path, even though it's new and scary. I choose to find my passion in life and to honor my person who died by living the best life that I can. I choose to make a new start. I choose, and we can choose whatever path we want in life. My hope is always that people choose a positive, productive path, but people choose negative paths, whether they believe it's a choice or not. They make small choices that lead to the negative as well. So I'm going to encourage you to really focus on those small things that lead you towards positive paths. The other recommendation I'm going to make when it comes to grief, don't be afraid to share your feelings. I have talked to so many people who are grieving that think that they are a burden to other people if they say, yeah, I'm still sad, I still miss them. They think that other people don't want to hear their problems. Other people maybe don't care. And I don't think any of that is true. I think in society in general, we're kind of awkward when it comes to the subject of grief. And so you have to be able to get past that awkwardness and be able to say to a friend, yeah, I'm still hurting. Like, I have a hard time at night, or I have a hard time thinking that I can go off and start a new business because my last one failed. I have a hard time thinking I could be in a new relationship because the last one didn't turn out so great. So you have to be able to speak those out loud. If you don't have an outlet for those, then they just kind of roll around inside you and they cause really bad anxiety and depression for people. Whereas if you can verbalize those and talk about it with someone you trust, of course, not just some random stranger, um, then it starts to look different to your brain. And it's not something to be feared, and it doesn't cause this anxiety to build up inside of you. The other thought with that too is you might help somebody else. You never know what path somebody is walking. You might be able to say, hey, I'm really grieving right now, but this is what I've done to help. You maybe don't know their path and don't know that they have grief going on too. And that one thing you say to them, A, might make them feel like they are not alone, which is a huge thing for everybody. We all need to know that somebody else understands us. But it also might give them something that could really help them move along in their grief process too. We're all experts in our own feelings. I know people think that you have to go to a therapist to find an expert in feelings. That is so not true. We are the experts about our feelings. And so we should be able and confident to speak our feelings about things. Obviously, like I said, not random strangers, not venting on Facebook, not things like that, but people we trust or people we feel like we can help that way. So a few things that can help you work through the grief process and find positives. Journaling. I'm always going to say journaling because it may be the best coping skill around, in my opinion. And it's going to help your brain, instead of feeling like it's moving like this all the time, it's going to feel like it's more on a path. And so the more you journal, the more your brain kind of clears up and gets an idea of what you want it to do. The other thing is find friends with similar paths. Maybe you know other people who are grieving. Maybe you know other people who are great with starting a business or who just build you up. Sometimes we just need to be around people who give us that sense of feeling good about ourselves. Some people are just joyful to be around. Some people are encouragers. You can never have too many encouragers. Here's a shout out to all my Enneagram 9s because you guys are amazing that way. The other thing that I've really found in my grief process is rediscovering passions in my life. I have a big passion to help people as far as mental health and living a really beautiful, balanced life, because those are things that I have struggled with. I've struggled with anxiety all my life. I want to be able to help people so they don't have the same struggles I do. And throughout some of the grief process I've gone through in the past couple years, I've really latched on to making that a purpose in my life. And it gives me excitement and joy. And I feel like I'm being productive and helping people. And so I encourage you to find something you're passionate about and really run with it. Like make a business out of it. I don't know. Do it part-time, volunteer. I don't care how you do it. And maybe your passion is something that feeds your soul. And we all need that too. Like I have really discovered a lot of things about myself in this process that I didn't know. I've really gotten closer to what I consider my true self. And I've changed a lot in the process. Like looking back in my journals, because I'm a journaler. So it's really interesting to see kind of when I started the process and where I'm at now. And it's really a beautiful thing to go back and look at. It's painful sometimes, but it's also really good to see how you've grown. So I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit more, and hopefully this helps somebody out who is struggling right now. That is my main goal. So if you'd like to know more, I did write more about it in my blog, which I will link below. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can keep up with the newest videos as they come out. And I think that's all I have for tonight. Have a great evening, guys.